Good afternoon, everyone. It's Chat with Mac. We're glad to have you. Thank you to everyone who watches our little show here on a week by week basis. We appreciate it. Please subscribe. And I talk to a lot of CEOs and a lot of owners, and something that has been very interesting as of late. So, one question that I ask owners is if they're doing an incident response exercise. Now, for those of you that don't know, and Nadeem is probably going to talk a little bit more about that, one thing that Nadeem has always said is that it's not a matter of if a breach is going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. And his biggest thing is being prepared, everyone knowing what their role is. It's been very surprising to see the number of owners that I talk to that never do it, or they just leave it to their IT guy. Is that a good idea?
So there's a couple of things. For a business to be able to grow and scale, you have to have processes in place. And one of the things that happens is, a lot of times we talk to CEOs and I'll be sitting across from them and they're like, oh, well, yeah, but we're small. We don't need that. But here's the question. Do you have to put the process in place first so you can scale, or does scale come first and then come the process? I think the process comes 1st. You cannot scale until you have your processes in place. Now, as far as incidents go, this is part of the process. You have to make sure that every role in your company knows what to do when something bad happens. And you don't have to be a huge company to implement something like this. We're seeing, small, like 8, 12, 15 user companies even who have these processes in place. And that's where MSSPs come into play, right? Managed security service providers come into play, because a lot of these small companies, they don't have their own CIOs or alignment managers or their technical teams. They rely on third parties, and a lot of these third parties, these managed service providers, are not recommending that these customers do these response exercises, because it's, at the end of the day, it's a lot of work, right? But it is important work. The other side of the equation is some of the companies who are maybe a little larger, maybe they have 30, 40, 50 people, and they have their own IT person in place doing the day-to-day operations, and they are not doing incident response exercises because and that's the other side of things that we see a lot, people who have in-house IT, and we ask them, well, sir, when was the last time you did an incident response exercise? And that's exactly the way we word it, because we don't want to say, hey, have you ever done it? Because everybody should be doing it. It's when was the last time you did it? In our case, we recommend at least once a year. And for companies who have to go by some standard of compliance, usually the minimum is once a year. Some of the other companies who are maybe in some more critical industries may do it more often. But the thing is, it's like a fire drill for the organization. When there is a fire or a breach, what do people do?
Yeah.
And CEOs saying, oh, they've never done an incident response exercise, they've never heard of it, and their IT just handles it. That's not the right answer. No. Because CEO who is at the top, who is that strategic visionary, should be involved in these exercises, down to everybody, down to whoever touches a computer or tablet in the field, whatever have you. Everybody needs to know what to do when there is a disaster. Now, that's just, when there is a breach, an incident. So that's one part of the thing. The other part of the thing is what we also don't see much in the field not being implemented is disaster preparedness. So disaster response exercise, we don't see that either. So I know we focus a lot on security, but these two things kind of go hand in hand, because a security incident really is a disaster for the company, right? So they kind of go hand in hand. So you want to have incident response exercises, you want to have disaster response exercise, and you want to make sure you do these on a cadence where you do it at least once a year. And then the other more important part of it is that you document these exercises. And we do these internally as well. I mean, we're a small company, but we do these internally as well. I mean, every time we do these exercises, we learn something new. We tune a few processes here and there. I mean, it's amazing when you start documenting these things, how over time things evolve. And that's interesting to see, because if you don't document, then you're really not gaining the benefit of doing these exercises. It's just you're going through these motions, but there's no outcome.
Yeah.
It's when you document it and then you see the changes over time, that's really what makes a big impact. And that's, what we do is, like, every year we do the exercises, and then we have a special section at the end that says, what did we learn? Right. So one is, whatever we learned, we want to make sure that we keep repeating the good stuff. And then we also make some changes to that on what new things we've learned in current exercise. And over time, this entire process becomes refined, and everybody, like, you can go into any level of the organization and people will know what to do when there is an incident. As simple as somebody opens up an email and it prompts them to log in, and they typed in their username and password. And then after they typed it in, they realize, oh, wait a minute, what did I click? Why did I give them the username and password? Do they know what to do next? These exercises will prepare them for that.
So are IT guys not, and this is, the fact that I'm even asking this is kind of bewildering, because let's just be honest, the last 3 years, if I'm a business owner or even an IT guy after the last 3 years, I would think that this would be top of mind constantly. And like you've been saying, where's that? I mean, are people just getting lulled to sleep, or it's just weird to me that they aren't pushing this?
Well, it's multiple variables here. So I think what's happening is, one thing is that people are only now putting a higher priority on security. I mean, just a year ago, a lot of people we talked to, a lot of C-level executives we talked to, they were like, oh no, we're a small company. Nobody has us in their crosshairs. We're not a target. Only now are people realizing that the size really doesn't matter. For the hacker, it's the opportunity. Yeah. If you have a hole in your wall, they're going to try to get through it, right? Yeah. The other thing is, a lot of times, so, a C-level executive or an owner at the top of the company is doing so many different things, and they are getting input, making a decision, and then giving an output. If they get the wrong input, or if they don't get any input at all, they cannot make the right decisions. And that's what's happening a lot of times is IT, their own internal IT is not coming to the CEO and saying, hey, we need to have these exercises. We need to have these policies. We need to have these processes. We need to have these controls. Because and I know why this is happening, because a lot of internal IT departments are always so busy putting out fires. They cannot focus on this more proactive side of things. And here's the problem with putting out fires. When you start putting out fires, your resources are now occupied by putting out those fires. Yeah. They cannot focus. You cannot move those resources into a more proactive role. Yeah. And security is mostly a proactive thing. By the time you realize you've had a breach, the damage is done. It's already done. You want to be on the other side of it. You want to prevent it. So you want to be on the left side of boom, not on the right side of boom. The right side of boom is a bad place to be in, right? So I think that's what's happening is most business decision makers are not getting the right advice, you can say, or the right input from their IT department that, hey, we need to have these things in place. And that's one thing. Now, another thing is, we as third parties now reach out to companies, and we made a huge effort. We're making a big push to reach out to as many decision makers and make them aware of these exercises and processes and controls that have to be in place at every business. And I can see, like, a lot of times, I know when Mac, you talk to people, and the light bulb kind of goes out, and now they want to talk to you and ask you questions as opposed to you asking them questions, and it's like,
Right.
well, what is this incident response? Because they've never heard of it before. And it's like, well, that's why we are here, is because you
Yeah.
need to have something like this in place. Now, even if you have internal IT departments, if your internal IT department is busy putting out fires every day, get a third party. Get a third party and engage them just on the security side of things. So at least you are taking that proactive approach, because security is a huge proactive thing that you have to do. You cannot be reactive around security. And just the other day I was talking to an owner of a business, and she asked me, she was like, well, we only need somebody on an ad hoc basis that we can call when there is an issue, when something happens. So it's like, to me, because I do this every day, so to me it was like a red flag. It was like, wait a minute. So I kind of explained it to her. So I was like, okay, so you want somebody that you can call when you have a ransomware attack, when all your data is encrypted, then you want to call somebody. And wording it that way, it kind of clicked with her. She was like, no, we need to do this before. So, and that's why I told her, and because she was like, well, any IT company I talk to, they're saying, well, they have to be on a retainer, they have to do a bunch of things, and I don't understand this. And so I explained it to her, why they have to be on a retainer, why they have to do a lot of things proactively, because you don't want to have that ransomware attack and then reach out to somebody and call somebody, because by that time a lot of damage has already been done. So that's why more and more IT companies are on that recurring fee, where they have to plug their tool set in, and they have to start putting these controls in place, and creating your policies and procedures ahead of time, before things. And that's how you prepare.
And the crazy thing about it, it costs you more to pay the ransomware attackers and to get your data than more than likely would cost you to put somebody on a retainer and making sure you're secure and not have to deal with that. And I don't think a lot of owners think about that. Like, if you're hacked and the ransomware, these ransomware teams are saying, hey, we want $150,000, even if you talk them down to 70, that's probably less than what you would have paid your your MSP in the first place.
You could have gone a couple of years, for that amount. But and that's a valid point. The cleanup is much tougher, and costly thing to do. It's always better to, it's almost like medicine. It's
Yeah.
better to prevent it than to try to fix it after you got whatever disease it is, right? So, and that's the thing. A lot of times, it's like, when we work with in the healthcare industry, right? So it's I know there are some companies out there who'll be like, well, we know we're not HIPAA compliant, we don't care, we'll just pay the fine. Well, this is different. This is different, because when you talk about HIPAA, it's your patient's data, and these guys who are making these decisions, they're not thinking the right way. They're thinking, okay, well, so what if some patient's data gets compromised? I don't care. I'll just pay the fine. Okay, let's just take it as it is, right? So, but when it comes to security breaches, like a data hack or ransomware attack, that's more than just your customer's data. That's your customer's data, and it's your data. Now what? So these guys, these ransomware hackers, they're getting very smart. They're not just encrypting your data, they're making a copy, they're exfiltrating it. So in other words, they're extracting that data, putting it on the side, then encrypting your data, and they're saying, hey, you pay us money, we decrypt it. So let's say you have a good backup. You say, hey, no, I'm not going to pay you ransom. We got backups. Hey, guys, restore backups. Let's keep going. They still have all your data. So the next thing they do is, hey, guys, now you got to pay me double or I'm releasing all this data to the public.
Yeah.
Now you got a bigger problem. Now
Yeah.
what do you do? Right. So, security is one of those things that we cannot be reactive about, like, a lot of other things that companies tend to do on a reactive basis. Security is not one of those things. You have to be proactive about it. And like I said, if your internal IT guys are busy with the day-to-day operations and IT support, get a third party to be more proactive on the security side of things. The third parties, that's all they do. They're experts in this area. They will put controls and processes in place that will have multiple impacts on your organization. So, of course, one is you'll be better prepared, you'll be more secure, but also your cyber insurance might go down. Your cyber, in case there is an issue, your payout will be better because you have done everything you can do. You actually engage a third party, this is all they do, and they have the right policies and processes and controls in place where the cyber insurance company is going to have a hard time denying it, that they're not going to say it was negligence because you did everything that you could do. So those are some of the things that kind of impacted. So I hope, just from this video message, somebody kind of, that light bulb goes off and they start thinking that security cannot be reactive. It has to be proactive. And that's why it's getting harder and harder to find IT companies and service providers who are willing to just help you out on an hourly basis, because security cannot be done on an hourly basis. It has to be done on a cadence, on a routine basis, and on a daily basis.
I wouldn't be surprised if that completely phases out in the next.
It is. I mean,
Yeah.
we only do a very small portion of hourly stuff, and I mean, and I get prospects calling me every other day. Like, I mean, I think last week I made like 4 or 5 different referrals to other people because I told them we can't help them. If you want us just on an hourly basis and you want us to make sure that you are secure, we can't do it. It is not possible. So go to this other like individual or small company that will just do on an hourly basis whatever you want them to do. They're not going to be proactive about anything. But hey, if that's what you want, go talk to these guys, because that's not something that we want to do, because it doesn't make sense anymore. The landscape has just changed so dramatically. So if there is something that you learned from here, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, send an email or put a comment in the video asking us questions. We'll be happy to reply back. But understand this, that security is one of those things that cannot be reactive. So if somebody's coming in and saying, oh yeah, pay us a one-time fee, we'll plug this system in and boom, you will be 100% secure, there is no such thing. So I hope everybody kind of understands how the landscape is changing, and like I said, if you have questions, go ahead and put it in there. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. That always helps. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Have a good one.